Typically, you talk about quarterback battles in, training camp, week 1, week 2 of the season. No, we're talking about a quarterback derby for BYU football in week 13. Let's go.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Of course, we are your original daily podcast focused on all things BYU sports. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy with our friends at Prize Picks. All right, let's dive right in on today's show. And it appears that if you go by the coaching side of things, that BYU very much has a quarterback battle on their hands this week as they get ready for their matchup against Oklahoma State. Obviously, Jake Retzlaff has started the past 3 games with up and down results. He is 0-3 as a starter. We can acknowledge that. Meanwhile, Kedon Slovis is 5-3 as a starter for BYU, is apparently fully healthy and expected to practice at least this week with the hopes of potentially returning to start for BYU against the Cowboys. Now, on its head, it feels like this is a little bit of a contrived thing because I've been pretty adamant in saying that I think this should be Jake Retzlaff's team for the rest of the way this season, no matter if it ends this Saturday or if they, by some small miracle, win that game and punch their ticket to a bowl game. I think it should be Jake Retzlaff the entire way. But the metrics out there would indicate, and if you go by the overall win-loss margin, that would indicate that Kedon Slovis should get a long look here from the BYU football program with regards to starting potentially his final game in a Cougar uniform. Which way will BYU go? TBD. And I'm guessing that we'll talk to the media. It's Tuesday, so this is actually the only day we'll have this week to talk to players and coaches. Typically, during a normal week, we have Tuesday and Wednesday, but because of the compressed schedule with Thanksgiving, they're only doing media availability on Tuesday evening. And I'm fully expecting Aaron Roderick to speak to the media and be non-committal when it comes to a starting quarterback. Or he could do what he did a couple weeks ago and come just straight out and say Jake Retzlaff is our starter. I'd appreciate the latter, but I'm expecting the former, to be frank. But the biggest thing is I think this is very much a true quarterback battle because I do think there's some internal discussion about, okay, which quarterback gives us a better chance to win? Now, the case for Kedon Slovis, as I mentioned, he has all 5 of BYU's wins this season have come with him as the starting quarterback. The other thing is, according to Pro Football Focus, Max Chadwick mentioned this yesterday. He says that Kedon has a passing grade from Pro Football Focus of 68.7. Compare that to Jake Retzlaff, who is a 49.6 passing grade, which is head and shoulders in terms of giving the nod to Kedon Slovis. He also did mention this. Jake has got the ability to open up BYU's offense with his ability to run, which I think is absolutely something BYU has to weigh here because think about it. When Jake Retzlaff came into the lineup for BYU, when did the offense come alive with the running game? With Jake Retzlaff under center. His ability to pull it and be a dual threat quarterback, his ability to scramble and make plays with his feet has opened up all kinds of opportunities for BYU's offense. That's probably the biggest case or biggest stumping point for a guy like Jake Retzlaff to get the start this week. So I'm interested to see which way the coaches ultimately go with this. My gut tells me they will ultimately opt for Jake Retzlaff, but my gut this year, any of you who are everydayers with us, know that my gut has been wrong a lot this season. But nonetheless, I think it should be Jake Retzlaff. The reason why is because in a game like this, when you are a 17-point underdog, according to our friends over at FanDuel, that number's been fluctuating a little bit. I saw it drop to 16.5 at one point. But nonetheless, when you are a double-digit 3-score underdog going on the road to Oklahoma State, you need to be able to control the line of scrimmage. You need to be able to control the time of possession. You need to be able to have the ground game come to fruition and really start moving the ball. Does that mean that they can't run the football with Kedon Slovis under center, speaking of the BYU Cougars? No, they can run it, but the ability to have the dual threat, the read option, the RPO packages that Jake Retzlaff offers to you for BYU's offense, I feel like is better suited to do what BYU needs to do this week, and that is play keep away from an explosive Oklahoma State offense led by, I think, is a potential All-American, Ollie Gordon II. He is an absolute fantastic running back. BYU has seen their fair share of star running backs this season in the Big 12. Ollie Gordon very well may be the best of the bunch that BYU goes up against, and Oklahoma State needs to have him run for big yardage to win this game. So in my opinion, you go into this game and tell Jake Retzlaff, be smart with that football. You turn it over once, you're probably sitting the bench, and then we throw Kedon Slovis into the mix there, and he gets out there. But we need your ability to control the line of scrimmage, to be able to control the time of possession, to dominate and dictate the terms this game will be played on. BYU needs to slow this game down. They need another rushing performance like they had last week against Oklahoma. You got to go for 200 plus. You've got to have Aiden Robbins running wild for BYU. That offensive line led by Connor Pay, who will join us on tomorrow's podcast, has got to do what they did last week and open up monster holes. LJ Martin, Deion Smith, Miles Davis, all the other running backs that have seen action for BYU are going to need to be on point in this game, because if BYU, like I said, wants to win this football game, you've got to be able to slow it down and control the tempo and pace of the matchup. So I guess I'm coming off. I'm Team Retzlaff. I think that he offers the best opportunity to really do what BYU's offense is meant to do, and that is to have time of possession in their favor and open up that rushing attack. Because I've watched all 11 games BYU has played this season. I have rewatched them every single week. You guys know how I do on Mondays. I do my film review Monday. I sit down Sundays and watch the entire game over again. And I'll tell you, the last 2 weeks in particular, the ability of Jake Retzlaff as a dual threat quarterback to open up the BYU offense and open up new facets of the offense that were not available to them with Kedon Slovis under center, screamed to me that you go with Retzlaff. But like I said, the case for Kedon Slovis is he has the proven track record of actually winning football games for BYU this season, whereas Retzlaff is winless in his 3 starts to date. What do you guys think? Who do you think should start? Are you Team Slovis? Are you Team Retzlaff? I want you guys to make your case in the comments below. Tweet at us. You can tweet at me. You can see it on X there, Jacob C. Hatch. You can send it to Locked On Cougars on Facebook, Instagram, or X, formerly known as Twitter. Please send us your thoughts. You also can email us. LockedOnBYU@gmail.com is the email address. I'd love to kind of tally that up, and maybe we'll talk with Connor tomorrow about how the tally went. We'll see which side, Team Retzlaff versus Team Slovis, and who y'all prefer. But make your case. Don't just say Team Retzlaff, Team Slovis. Give me a reason why. I want to hear why you guys think one of these two should be starting for the BYU football program. All right. Quarterback position obviously is always going to dominate the headlines for BYU, but there's a position group that I think needs a lot of TLC, a lot of recruiting attention in the upcoming early signing window, as well as the transfer portal period. Well, BYU apparently is getting ahead of the pack, as so to say, when it comes to their defensive line recruiting. We'll talk about a new offer that went out yesterday. And by the way, Jeff Hansen lifted the lid on a little tidbit I missed earlier this week, and actually last week, here on the podcast, in terms of another commit that quietly committed to BYU last week. We'll get to all that as we continue on right here on Locked On Cougars. Now, a word on our friends over at LinkedIn real quick. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, my friends. You want to be 100% certain you have the right access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team, and more importantly, they're doing it faster and for free. You can go online, put your job posting up, get it on LinkedIn, and then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring for a position. Best part is they feature simple tools like screening questions, making it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses, are rating LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helping find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free today at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post that job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Perry Homes. Now, Perry Homes is one of our great local sponsors here, and whether you're looking for your first home or you're ready to upgrade to your dream home, Perry Homes has got a house for you, my friends. For 50 years, Perry Homes has been Utah's premier home builder with communities throughout the state. They have many communities, home designs, price points, all with you in mind as a consumer. The best part is they have beautiful communities in Davis, Salt Lake, Tooele, and Utah counties all along the Wasatch Front. They also have multiple communities in Washington County near St. George as well if you want to move down to Red Rock country. They offer over 50 unique home designs from ramblers to 2-stories to townhomes as well. They even have quick move-in homes available if you're ready to make the move right away. And they're also currently offering generous financing incentives through their preferred lender as well. So hop on it, my friends. Visit PerryHomesUtah.com to see what's new in Utah's finest neighborhoods. That's Perry, Perry, PerryHomesUtah.com to learn more now. For 50 years, Utah has been coming home to Perry Homes. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you guys are all doing well on this Tuesday, Thanksgiving week. Hope you're having a lot of good downtime with family and friends. I know a number of you might have been taking the week off, but thank you to all of you who have been downloading, listening to the show. Even if you are on vacation, you guys are the real ones. You're the everydayers that make this show go. So thank you for your support. And it's a time to be thankful. I'll be honest, I'm thankful for every single one of y'all. You guys make my job easy, the interaction, the takes, even if I vehemently disagree with your takes, the fact that you take time to watch and or weigh in with your thoughts, it means the world to me. We've built a really, really fun community here on Locked On Cougars, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support, and hopefully we'll continue to do that well on into the future. All right, as I mentioned, BYU's defensive line, it feels like it's going to need a lot of attention this offseason from BYU. And the reason I say that is because BYU has a number of upperclassmen that are going to be leaving the program. Jackson Cravens was a 1-year rental for BYU. Also, Atonai Samahe and Caden Haas both walked on senior day. I know Mahe is out of eligibility. I believe Haas has 1 year of eligibility, but he did walk on senior day, so he could vacate the premises, as it were. Isaiah Banya has 1 year of eligibility. He's not sure what he is going to do. Tyler Batty sounds like he is all but done at BYU. So you're listening to what I'm talking about. BYU's top of the line defensive linemen appear to be headed for the exits for BYU. That means that BYU's got to absolutely kill it in the recruiting sphere on the defensive line, because frankly, there's not a ton of depth for BYU at defensive line. David Latu is a very, very nice defensive tackle, but beside him, who do you have? Joshua Singh, Bruce Mitchell, John Nelson. Those are essentially the bodies that you have alongside him. And John Nelson, I believe, was a low 3-star prospect. Bruce Mitchell was a 2-star prospect. And Joshua Singh is a former walk-on for BYU. I said this a couple of weeks ago in my film review that BYU had a backup defensive line against Iowa State that consisted of a 3-star talent, a transfer, and David Latu, who transferred to BYU from the junior college ranks, former 2-star prospect in Bruce Mitchell, and then 2 former walk-ons in Blake Mangelson, as well as Joshua Singh. That was the backup defensive line for BYU. They need to get an influx of talent, and they need depth. They need major depth along that defensive front. And it appears that BYU understands, and they're getting a jump on it with the offer going out to University of Pennsylvania grad transfer Joey Slackman. Now, this is not necessarily the ideal grad transfer, in my opinion, because you want to have guys who come in and maybe can play for maybe at least 2 years, in my opinion, via the transfer portal. But this seems like a pretty decent pickup if he wants to come in and essentially audition his wares for the next level. Now, Slackman has been playing at Penn. Now, Penn obviously is a member of the Ivy League, so he's smart. There's no doubt in my mind that he will be able to essentially pass what he needs to in terms of his overall smarts. Because if you can go to University of Pennsylvania and you can play in the Ivy League, yeah, you done got some grades behind you. And I know I just use awful grammar when I'm talking about an Ivy League graduate, but nonetheless, former team captain for Penn. He has in 28 career games, 115 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 3 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 8 quarterback hits, and 1 block tick. And a partridge in a pear tree. I really like his body type, 6'4", 300 pounds. I was reading up on Slackman. He's a former wrestler who actually originally went to Penn on a wrestling, so it's not a scholarship, but he was going to join the wrestling program. He's a former heavyweight wrestler, so he knows how to control his body. And at 6'4", 300 pounds, he's got ideal size for a defensive tackle. Do I think that he would come into BYU and be a day one starter for the Cougars? No, I can't say that, but this seems like the right type of, 1 year rental or 1 season rental for the BYU football program, considering the dearth of talent that is probably going to be along that defensive front for BYU. Because, by the way, I forgot to mention this, both Daly brothers, John Henry as well as Michael Daly, have both opted to enter the transfer portal, and who knows who else might enter the transfer portal after next week when the transfer portal opens. It opens a week from Sunday. To be clear, that's after the conference championship game, so we're about 2 weeks out. But Joey Slackman is a guy to keep an eye on here, because I think that he could come in and at minimum offered a good size on the interior, but proven production at the Ivy League level. Does that translate, like I said, to being a standout player at the Big 12 level? No, but we have seen guys, think about it. Guys like Eddie Heckard, we saw Camden Garrett. They both came from the not Division II, FCS level from Weber State and have really proven themselves at a Big 12 level. Can Joey Slackman be that next guy who does that for BYU if he ultimately decides to opt to play for the Cougars? It'd be a great opportunity, I think, for him to go improve it, because it appears to me that he is opting to go and show what he's capable of doing at the next level at a bigger program. But also, as I mentioned, as I saw, Robbie McCombs pointed this out, Ivy League schools do not allow graduate students to play in the Ivy League. So he's got to find another program to play for. So I'm very intrigued by this offer, but it feels like this should just be one of what I expect to be a bevy of offers to high school, junior college, and transfer portal targets for BYU along that defensive front. You heard me talk about it. There's going to be an exodus of talent from BYU's already shaky defensive line at times. The best talent of that could walk out the door this offseason. You need an influx of talent and depth, and it feels like Joey Slackman is just kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what I would expect would be a bevy, like I said, of offers going out to defensive linemen, because I think Sione Bua, as well as Kelly Papinga, and Kalani Sitake absolutely would understand this, as well as Jay Hill. They need to have guys on the interior who can hold up against the run better than they have this year. They did not obviously perform up to expectations in multiple games. They got kind of worn down against Oklahoma. I thought the lack of depth really came back to bite them late in that game when they started to get gashed by the Sooners, which allowed the Sooners to win that football game. So I expect that BYU will do everything in their power to upgrade that position by whatever means necessary. And if that means bringing in Ivy League type talents, hey, go for it. Because like I said, this kid, Joey Slackman, former wrestler, good size, 6'4", 300 pounds. It screams to me a low risk, potential high reward type pickup. But obviously the Cougars will have to fend off all kinds of different offers. And this is a kid who would ultimately be coming across the country because he grew up in Commack, New York. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So he'd be coming as far west probably as he's ever come west before. But I am intrigued by the potential of a kid like this to play for the Cougars, and we'll see what happens. Now, Jeff Hansen also didn't mention this. Matthias, oh man, I forgot. I just had this. Maas Leech. He said that he had a piece out on Cougar Sports Insider yesterday talking about Blake Lowe's commitment to BYU. Well, Matthias Leech, he said in the bottom of that story, just at the final paragraph, he says, hey, quietly, Matthias Leech out of Chisholm Trail High School in Fort Worth, Texas, committed to BYU last week. Now, there was some question about Matthias Leech because when he announced he had an offer from BYU, in his Twitter bio, it said BYU commit. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But Jeff Hansen, when it comes to BYU recruiting, he's the gold standard. But as far as I'm aware, and I'm not being paid by Jeff to say that, I really trust his opinion on a lot of stuff. We go back and forth on different things, but it feels like this is another decent pickup. He's a mid 3-star talent. Speaking of Matthias Leech, 85 points on the 24/7 sports scale. He doesn't have a composite rating because the other recruiting services has not rated him yet, but he's got good size for a safety. 6'1", 175 pounds. He's committed to BYU over offers from the likes of Louisiana, Miami of Ohio, and Utah State. So not necessarily top tier offers, but here's the thing. If Jay Hill signs off on a recruit, because I implicitly, similar to what I just talked about with Jeff, I implicitly trust what Jay Hill says when it comes to his recruiting profile and what he sees on film. That's a guy who has developed more than his fair share of star defensive players. If he signs off on Matthias Leech as being a guy who can come in and make a difference for BYU, who am I to argue with it? So it looks like BYU is doing some work here, and obviously they still need to continue to upgrade the overall talent profile, the star ratings, as it were, in terms of the overall recruiting class. But BYU right now is rated, they're just above 85 in terms of their overall across the board rankings from 24/7 Sports currently. It's actually one of the better recruiting classes in the recent past, but they still need to continue to work on upgrading that, and it'll be a process. But like I said, when Jay Hill signs off on a kid and he decides to commit to BYU, I'm going to guess that Jay Hill has seen something on film that's got him excited, and BYU may have one of those quote-unquote diamonds in the rough when it comes to Matthias Leech, because he is a safety at the high school level, and it appears that he's coming to play for Jay Hill in that defensive secondary for BYU. By the way, Blake Lowe did confirm to Greg Biggins from 24/7 Sports in an article that he has been recruited to play linebacker. So that big frame we talked about on yesterday's podcast, for those of you who are everydayers, heard me talk about the fact that it feels like he could pack on 20 to 30 pounds. He's 205 pounds right now. He plays at 230, 240 as a linebacker. It seems like a really, really nice prospect there for Blake Lowe. So recruiting starting to heat up, folks, and we'll have plenty of coverage for it. Yeah, obviously, the early signing window is in mid-December, and if BYU ultimately does fall this week in terms of it not making a bowl game, well, guess what we're pivoting to? We're pivoting to recruiting a lot. So get ready for it. We'll, of course, be tracking all the news and notes out there and have as much intel for you guys every single day right here on Locked On Cougars. All right, we will finish up today's show coming up here momentarily. Need to talk about an honor going out to the BYU freshmen on the BYU women's basketball program that you want to pay attention to. They've got a number of great players playing for Amber Whiting's team, but this one, she's a local prospect. She comes from a program that is pretty well known to BYU basketball fans, and she got a pretty big honor earlier this week, and we'll talk about all that coming up here in just a moment. Now, a quick word on our friends over at Prize Picks, though. Our friends at Prize Picks are the best and the greatest, and I guess the largest, I should say, daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and it's just you versus the number. Simple as that. You're not having to compete against thousands of other people and cross your fingers, hold your lucky rabbit foot, and hope you're going to win. That's what Prize Picks is here. It's you versus the numbers, you versus the computer, and you win up to 25 times back your money this football season. You also can play during the basketball season too. You just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, place your entry. It can be done in less than 60 seconds. It's really that simple, my friends. You now can pick combo projections across football and basketball from specials leagues, a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce had a 10.5 combo of three-pointers made and receptions in a game. Now, if you watch Monday Night Football last night, Travis Kelce would have probably let you down because everybody on the Kansas City Chiefs decides they can't catch the football from Patrick Mahomes. And nonetheless, that's what you had to have fun with every single day. The IR also offering you guys quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So get on it today and have some fun with it. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege now and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. $100 in, get $100 to play with. It's $200 in your account. Simple as that, my friends. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege using the promo code LockedOnCollege for that deposit match up to $100. It's all courtesy of your friends at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day, everybody. Want to remind you guys that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus our national shows covering every league across the board. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's a really fun feature, my friends. Actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can get a quick redirect and check it out right after today's show wraps up. So check that out. I would encourage you guys to do so. It's a really, really fun way to get caught up on the sports. The various different podcasts across the network, they get to be featured on that national network. It's actually a really, really cool thing. And I think it's got a ton of potential down the road for BYU. All right, so BYU women's basketball is in action tonight as they wrap up play in the it's the what do they call it? The North Shore Open, or not the North Shore Open, the North Shore like showcase event. They're going to take on the St. Louis Billikens. That'll be at 6:00 Mountain Time tonight. It's going to be on BYU Radio 107.9 FM, also a broadcast on BYU TV, live from Laie, Hawaii, in the Cannon Activities Center on the campus of BYU Hawaii. Well, BYU is led by a freshman right now who is absolutely lighting it up early on in her career, and that's freshman Kailey Woolston. She's a former Lone Peak Knight. I mentioned that it's a program that you're going to be well aware of. She is averaging she's leading all conference freshmen in scoring at 18.5 points per game this past week. She was named Big 12 Freshman of the Week last week for her showings for BYU. She led the Cougars in minutes played with 34.3 on average, scoring 18.5 points per game. Field goal percentage at 66.7% shooting from the field. And oh, by the way, her 3-point percentage last week, 61.5%. She is absolutely scorching the nets right now. And by the way, she did this in high school. And the question was it going to translate over to the collegiate level? Well, so far, she's absolutely lighting it up in the opening game of the Hawaii North Shore Classic. That's what they called it. ACC foe Wake Forest. BYU beat them down. She scored 18 points on a 70% shooting clip, going 4 of 6 from downtown. She is absolutely, like I said, lighting it up for BYU. So congratulations to her. It is the first Big 12 weekly honor for any BYU basketball player, men or women, in the Big 12 era for BYU basketball. And it feels like if Kailey Woolston is going to continue to play at this level, that's like the first of like what could be many to come for the Cougars. It's really fun to see her doing her thing. So congratulations to Kailey Woolston, and best of luck to BYU as they finish up play there out on the North Shore. Taking on St. Louis tonight. Should be a big opportunity for BYU to go out and get another W to add to their record. All right, so there you go. That's what I got for you guys on this Tuesday edition of the podcast. A little shorter edition, but nonetheless, still a lot of fun to be with you guys every single day. Thank you for supporting it. Quick reminder that tomorrow on the show, Connor Pay rejoins us. It's going to be one of the final times we're going to have him on the show. I'm sure we'll have a wrap-up edition next week after the regular season wraps up and talk about the season ending or going to a bowl game, and who knows what else on into the future with Connor. So don't forget to not miss that show. It's a wrong syntax there, but nonetheless, don't forget to check it out. Connor Pay on tomorrow's edition of the podcast. We will take a break on Thursday, let you guys enjoy time with your family for Thanksgiving. We'll pick it right back up on Friday as we get you ready for BYU and Oklahoma State out in Stillwater on Saturday afternoon. Big opportunity for BYU to go out and get to bowl eligibility and crush the hopes of the Cowboys in the process. If they win, they're into the Big 12 championship game. Obviously, they're going to have plenty of motivation in their own right, but BYU can play spoiler while also extending their season at the same time. That should be double motivation, it feels like, for BYU football, beyond just wanting to have the pride of winning a football game. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to catching up with Connor tomorrow. And once again, a big thank you to all of you for your support of the podcast. As always, hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday whenever you hear and or watch us. And thank you for being everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast. See ya.